Good evening and very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here on the Oz Cro Soccer Show. My name is Tonchi Prusats. Joining me as he does week in, week out, Josip Zilic. Good evening, Josip. How are you?
Good evening, Tonchi, and good evening to our viewers and audience tonight. Looking forward to a blockbuster session with our guests and our updates and the news around the country, mate. I'm very good, though. How are you?
Excellent, mate. Excellent. It's been a busy afternoon/evening. We've gone from one screen to the other. For those of you that might not be in the know, the draw for this year's Australian Croatian Soccer Tournament to be held in Sydney later this year has just been completed. We've got all the news. We've got all the wash-ups a little bit later on in the show. We're going to have the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia, JURE DragOvic, joining us. And we've also got all of the groups as well. So if you missed out on that live draw, don't despair. We're going to go through all of that. Huge show coming up. That's a little bit later on in the show. What else is coming up, Josipa? It's episode 25 of our inaugural season. Wow.
Episode 25, Silver Edition.
Yeah. Silver Jubilee.
We'll have a bit of. We'll do an express version of the wrap up for around the country. Seeing that we've got a couple of guests on tonight, I'm sure our viewers won't be too upset if we don't go into the usual depths that we go into in our wrap around. So we'll quickly zoom around the country for some key news. There is a departure in the coaching ranks. There's also some key cup matches coming up for a certain club, and yes, that review around the tournament draw. There's one club in New South Wales that has entered 8 teams, and that's a very
record number. Find out who that team is a little bit later on as well. In Croatia, massive news left, right and centre. Teams folding, teams re-entering, teams doing this, teams doing that. We've got all the wash-up from the Dinamo Zagreb's European Champions League qualifying match earlier today against the Macedonci or Albanci or...
How is the crowd? We'll talk about it a bit later. But tell you what, the crowd wasn't a lot of them, but they were bloody loud.
Geez, they made a lot of noise. Far out. And there was a little bit of crowd collaboration, or let's call it fan collaboration, where apparently the Bad Blue Boys were not allowed in, or away supporters were not allowed in. But don't you worry, where there's a will, there's a way. Thanks to some of the home supporters, they managed to smuggle a couple of Dinamo Zagreb supporters in, or basically buy tickets for them. But yeah, it's a lot happening. We've had a great club that's Ugasilos, as they say in Croatia, the winner of the very first Croatia Cup. Find out who that is, but it's also opened up a whole Pandora's box in Divisions 2 and Divisions 3. We'll find out about that. But also we've got another guest, and we've got both our guests tonight, Josipa, represent organisations that hold a very special place in both of our hearts. Both you and I have been involved with the SABLJAK, the Croatian Soccer Association, but for many years I was also heavily involved with the Hrvatski Vjesnik, the Croatian Herald. So we've got the editor.
Done my fair share of articles for the Vjesnik.
Absolutely, yep. And we'll be talking to the editor-in-chief. Is his name Zoran? Is it Jura? Is it George? God knows. It's SABLJAK. Everyone knows him as SABLJAK here. He'll be joining us a little bit later on to talk about the importance of Croatian soccer clubs to the wider Australian Croatian community. And hailing from the southeast of Melbourne, his his hometown club is Dandenong City. Let's get the inside info. Can Dandenong City survive in the Victorian NPL? Fingers crossed they can. We'll find out from George all of the latest there as well. So, mate, we've got a heap of news now. Before we go any further, Josipa, news about next week's show as well. We've had to move that because of a very good reason. Tell us.
Oh, look, next week we know that one of our clubs, Sydney United, is taking on Monaro Panthers in the Australia Cup at home, and we want all full focus on them. Those that are in New South Wales, Sydney surrounds, we want them at the ground. But us around the country and the diaspora, we want to be online and giving them the support that they deserve and get them over the line and get them into the round of 16. So, we'll respectfully go to the Tuesday night, usual time at 8:30. We'll do a bit of a preview of this and look at any significant changes or anything that's going on in regards to Sydney United. But yeah, we want everyone to give them the full focus and support from the surrounds.
Maybe we might even be able to get Miro Vlastelica on, who's been on the show before.
Actually, I think Joe Chelita might be back from Crow now, so we might give him a buzz.
Yes.
Yeah.
A former Sydney Croatia and Melbourne Croatia great. And if he's just back from Croatia, he can tell us all about what is happening over in Croatia.
See if you can grow that mullet again just in time for the show.
Oh, that's bringing back great memories, bringing back fantastic memories. Without further ado, folks, it's going to be a huge show tonight. We do apologise if we go over that 1 hour kind of thing because it is jam-packed tonight. Lots and lots of news. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. We're going to get into the Australian Croatian Soccer Roundup with Josip straight after this very, very short, I won't even call it a break. I'll call it a news jingle. Don't go away, folks.
Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show, episode 25, Oz Cro Wrap-Up. We know that in New South Wales and Queensland, there were several washed-out games throughout last week's downpours, affecting Gold Coast, Brisbane, both nights. South Coast United also had matches postponed. We saw St Albans Dynamo's match postponed. So there'll be catch-ups happening left, right and centre. It's been the flavour of the year. The last couple of years we've had COVID killing us, and now we've got the weather playing
La
all sorts
Nina.
of havoc on
La
us.
Nina.
La Nina. I reckon La Nina and COVID are in cahoots together. Gold Coast Knights will be in action on Friday night against Brisbane Roar at 7:30 p.m. at home. You know what, Tunch? Palmy Knights are back at the Gold Coast Knights Sports Centre. I'm there tomorrow night after training. So get in there, people around Gold Coast, get yourself a beautiful palmy after training. So
do they have any special? Do they have like a special Croatian version of the Parmigiana? You know how every country I think adopts their own.
I might have to speak to our lovely maitre d' at the club, Slavko Malatic, and see whether he can maybe get a pljeskavica and turn it into a Parmigiana or something. I don't know.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. But moving along, mate, look, despite all that rain, there was some bright news. It was our Steel Cities that gave me the inspiration this week, Tunchi. Look at South Coast United. They got themselves the all-important win on the board. Form turning around. 2-1 win over Corrimal. Now, they need to back it up. They've got Bulli this week, mid-table Bulli around third or fourth. About sitting around third or fourth. So well done to South Coast United. Good to see you in the winning form. Let's keep that up. But the other part of the other Steel City, 24-0 trouncing Raymond Terrace. And as soon as I said it, Karl Živkovic pops up on the chat. So good timing, Živka. So it was an absolute massacre. Look, in fairness to Raymond Terrace, they did have some outs. I listened to that video from Joshy after the game, and he was very respectful of the fact that Raymond Terrace had some key outs and players playing in 2 games, resis and seniors. So, look, probably the scoreline doesn't really tell the full story, but look, 24-0. That's drawing on Archie Thompson territory in that American Samoa game with Australia. It was 31-0 or something. So, look, it's in the record books. So well done, Newcastle Croatia, going on from strength to strength. This week they take on Curry. So if I was playing for Curry, I'd be getting out of there in a hurry. So not one to miss.
And that rhymes, Curry in a hurry. I'm a pisiko, pravi pjesnik. Now, here's a thought for Karl Živkovic and the crew at Newcastle Croatia. Approach Archie Thompson. He's played guest games at every club known to man. But he could now replicate his Tonga expedition, whatever, American Tonga expedition.
American Samoa.
In the colours of American Samoa, sorry, I stand corrected. In the colours of Newcastle Croatia. Maybe next time it won't be 24-0, it'll be 31-0, maybe against Curry. Huh? Anyway, Curry on Saturday there at Pasadena Oval. If you want a goal fest, get along to this game. It's at 2:30 p.m. There in Newcastle. Well done, Newcastle, Croatia.
And more
Newcastle,
importantly,
Croatia,
you get to hang out with some beautiful people in Newcastle too. So
Absolutely. Well, this is just a little bit of a warm up for the Croatian tournament. A little later on, we'll be talking about that a little later on in the show. But Newcastle, Croatia will be making their long-awaited return to the Croatian Soccer Tournament in Sydney later this year.
Beautiful.
Yossi Pep.
Yes, and we're looking forward to that. Sydney United, mate, they closed out their home match for 2022 with an unfortunate 4-2 loss to third place Manly. Next week, they're away in their last match of the season to Apia, and they head into, after that, they've got the home clash with Monaro Panthers in the round of 32 for the Australia Cup. And it's one we all want to get behind, as I mentioned earlier. So we're not going to be broadcasting anything. We want full focus on Sydney United and just getting our collective energy to help them across the line. So get onto the social media pages to book your tickets ahead of time, so you don't have to wait in the queues. I'm sure that people around Sydney and even Newcastle and the South Coast will come along.
Yeah.
They also have the Waratah Cup final on the 7th of August. We'll dive into that a little bit on Tuesday and our next session on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
But playing Northwest Spirit, and so we'll get the details on that one for the next episode. Hurstville went down in a narrow 1-0 loss to Fraser Park. The young and aspiring team has thrilled us this year, Tonchi. We've had beautiful football, spectacular goals, and world-class broadcasts from Hurstville this year. Next week is their final match of the year versus Nepean away. Because their last round of the season is actually a bye, so the penultimate round is unfortunately Zagreb Hurstville's last game for the year. I just want to congratulate Hurstville Zagreb. Look, they've given us a lot of support, but we've seen a lot come out of their club this year through their social pages and showing exactly how we like to see clubs run.
Yeah.
Considered effort
100%.
for their girls, boys, youth coming through playing first grade football. There's a lot of love around that community. You can hear it when Ante and Tony were doing the broadcast as well. There is a lot of respect and love for the club. So well done to them. And they are the club we mentioned earlier. 8 teams registered for this year's tournament.
Wow.
8 teams.
That is
scattered
incredible.
throughout Masters, Veterans, Women's, Div 1, Div 2. So look, congratulations, Hurstville. It's you come to the fore and you're really responding to the Sydney's call.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Great to see Hurstville Zagreb setting a record. 8 individual teams in the soccer tournament. That's brilliant. Well done to them. Over in the West, we're moving now this club is obviously going places. They've also actually named, I think, a juniors award after one of their most famous sisters, if you like, or daughters, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Western Knights, first of all, Western Knights has closed, the senior men's have closed the gap on Olympic to 3 points. And guess who they're playing this weekend, Tunch?
Olympic.
Although their goal difference is a little less than Olympics, they will be able to, if they get the win, bridge the gap to equal points, and it'll make it for the last 3 or 4 rounds. It's going to be helter-skelter, I reckon. So let's hope for the best for them. The Junior Knights had a great night out in the Man U Villa match at Optus Stadium, as you can see in that little snippet there. Great to see the young players out parading around the stadium, and beautiful to see the kids in their red, white, and blue regalia proudly adorned. That medal and award that you mentioned for best young player at Western Knights is named none other than former player and Matilda highest goal scorer Sam Kerr.
Sam Kerr, and I wonder if the first recipient of that award is going to get the FIFA 2023 game with Sam Kerr on the front cover. The last FIFA that's going to be on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever the case may be. But
PlayStation, that's right. The EA Sports collaboration.
EA Sports, that's it. Yeah. Yep, that's what I was looking at. Yep. Brilliant work, also, mate. Brilliant work.
Okay, so Gwellup managed to get a 0-0 draw, so their losing ways came to a temporary halt. But with 5 games to go, Tonchi, minor miracle required to avoid the drop. There's 5 games, that means there's 15 points on offer. They've got a 12-point gap to third last. So, look, hell of a lot of work ahead of them. I'm sure that they'll take a lot out of this season in terms of recollecting and getting themselves back in order. But, look, hopefully this weekend they can get another win. Over in SA, there was no round this week due to cup rounds, so we can fly past SA this week, and we'll catch up with them on our Tuesday show and get back into the regular coverage there. Over in Tassie, mate, Glenorchy maintaining pressure on league leaders Devonport, who had a slip-up of their own, but with a 3-0 win over Riverside. So they're just managing to keep that pressure on. There is an 8-point gap between second and first, but you never know. There's still about 5 or 6 rounds to go over in Tassie. Anything can happen. As Devonport haven't lost a game in about 9 rounds, and all of a sudden they drop the game. So keep the pressure on, and that's what happens. So good on you, Glenorchy Knights. Over in Vic, look, there was a lot of losses going on for the major clubs in the bigger clubs in Victoria. Knights, North Geelong, Dandy all had losses, so it wasn't one to sort of write home about. Dynamo had their game postponed due to the ground conditions. We can see in the NPL standings that Melbourne Knights is sort of just steadied out there in ninth position. Not a lot's going to change there with only a couple of rounds to go. Major news coming out of Melbourne Knights, though, during the week, unfortunately, Steve Berbich and football manager Mark Ivkovic have decided to part ways with the club. It's come to a mutual agreement by the sounds of the press release they put out through the week. So we do wish him all the best, and we do thank Steve for responding to the calls whenever we've asked him to speak on the show. So a person of that caliber and stature, I'm sure he'll be able to find some more work in coaching if that's the way he wants to continue to go. But you never know. Some coaches, like we've seen throughout the year, Tonch, like to have a bit of a breather and a break and then get back before they get back into it again.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that is surprising that it was effective immediately. So Ben Surrey, the 10-year-old veteran and former captain, he's taken over in a caretaker role. I guess there's not that many games to go, 3 games or 4 games to go in Melbourne Knights case. They've got that game in hand against Green Gully. But, I would have thought maybe they would have seen out the season, but there obviously must be a reason for it. Maybe they just want to start planning for next year straight away.
That's right.
But, sad to see.
Look, and we'll talk a little bit more about Dandy City with Mr. SABLJAK when he comes on the show a little bit later. So we'll dive into that a little bit further. Yeah, so they've seen Dandy City. They've still got the opportunity to jump out of that automatic drop zone. 2 points in it, and they've still got a couple of games to see out. So, 3 games to see out. So, anything can happen, mate. So let's hope that George can share some good news for us, and we can all get behind Dandy City and push them up to at least the 12th and get them away from that drop.
Absolutely.
A little special shout out to a couple of young players out of Victoria, Tunchi. Here we go. Evie Stosic and Job Davies from North Geelong. They've been selected for the Vic School Sports team, and they're going to be in the Australian School Championships over in Perth later on in the year.
Yeah, two very, 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 very talented youngsters in the under-12s. Joe Davies has come to North Geelong this year. He's in the under-12 Metro. Evie Stosic is a very, very talented young lady, and she comes from a very, very talented family. Also, her older brother, Zach, was named, along with Noah Skorka there on the picture, another North Geelong product, son of Josip. They've been named as 2 of the top 40 most exciting under-16 boys juniors. So there's some very, very good quality coming out of Elko Park. Great to see. And congratulations to those 4, really. Zach as well as Noah and Evie and Job as well. So it's great to see that there's a lot of talent continuously being produced by that conveyor belt of talent at Elko Park, which yourself and myself both know very, very well, intimately well down at Elko Park. Yeah. Great to see.
Yeah, I'm delighted for them all. We love it. Good stuff, mate. Of note around Victoria, though, there was a derby at the Metro Division Div 2 between Split and Gorspich. It was the inaugural Maxi Centage Cup. In the Metropolitan Northwest fixture, Strathmore Split did come out with the win, but more importantly, the opportunity for the 2 clubs to come together over someone quite special to them all, to celebrate the life of the late Maxi, who was the coach of Gorspich Bears during his time there for his sudden passing earlier in the year. And that was just a sign of unity and respect to pay tribute to him, for a man who loved the football, he loved people, and people loved him back, and he loved his community and having the community around him. So he was, rest in peace, Maxi.
Absolutely, rest in peace. A very, very fine contributor to the Croatian community in Melbourne, Maxi Centage was, and it's great to see that his memory does live on. On to Canberra and the ACT. Now, in Victoria, the Croatian clubs aren't doing too well, but up in the ACT, geez, both of them are doing very, very well. Tell us
Yeah,
more.
so look, there's no stopping these clubs. They're really just turning it on, and at the right time of the year as well. Canberra men's, another win, 4-2 over West Canberra Wanderers. Canberra women, another win, 6-0 smashing of Gungahlin United, both sitting on top of their respective NPL ladders. Then we look over to O'Connor Knights. O'Connor Knights had a 1-0 win. They're sitting fourth, so in the top four playoff area. The O'Connor women sitting on top of their group in the Capital Premier League. So they also had a 1-0 win over Majura. So everything looks fine, dandy, and coming up roses for our ACT brothers and sisters. Love to see it.
Brilliant.
Tonchi, that's it for the Oz wrap. Over to you for the Hrvatska and Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to take a very, very short jingle break, if you like. But before we do that, if your club would like to sponsor an upcoming episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show, contact us by emailing us at ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com or calling us now on 0402 012 716. Look, we're 25 episodes into the show. We wanted to have at least 25 episodes, so we're up there now. And look, our goal is to get to 30 episodes this year. So we do need advertisers. We do need sponsors. We'd love to get beyond 30 episodes, but if we can get to 30 episodes in our very first season, that is absolutely fantastic. We will be super, super happy about that. When we return, it's all about what's happening in Croatia and Herzegovina. The season has started in both countries. So hang about. We've also got a little bit of a sneak preview of what the Croatia World Cup tops are going to look like in Qatar later this year. You do not want to miss that.
Fantastic. Look forward to that.
Oh, better hide that. Despite
What'd you sneak in the cup?
Yeah, despite the product placement there, let me just say, as a very, very proud Hajdukovac, I was very, very happy to see Dinamo Zagreb this morning progress through to next round of the UEFA Champions League qualifiers. Let's start off with what happened there this morning. Tough game. It was a really, really tough game. Came up against the they call themselves the Macedonian team, but it's actually an Albanian community supporter team. What are they called? Shkupi, like Skopje, yeah. 1-0, tough game. Look, Ademi, and who else is going to score? The captain, Ademi, who is actually plays for the Macedonian national team. The politically correct version is to say the Northern Macedonian, but we'll call it Macedonia as it is. Yeah, Ademi came on to really make a big difference. I think Luka Menalo came on at half time. That was the stroke of genius, would you call it? But I'll tell you now,
it was his work that arduously got through all the little plays in the way. So yeah.
Yeah, remembering Dinamo went to Skopje with a 2-2 result. Apparently the away goals don't count double in the event of a draw these days in European competition. So, look, the game could have been headed to extra time. It could have been headed on penalties, etc. But it was avoided because Dinamo did win that. So, look, good, important win. But the Croatian media is scathing. All today, there are sections of the Croatian football media saying Ante Čačić, bad tactics, needs to go. This is on the back of a 5-1 thrashing of Slaven Belupo over the weekend, where they played with one striker, played absolutely fantastically. Now they played with two attackers. Things didn't go too well. So any Dinamo Zagreb fans that are tuning in, I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to hear your comments. Should Ante Čačić, the coach of Dinamo Zagreb, stay, or should he go? Let us know what you think. But like I said, in Croatia, there is an overwhelming sentiment that Čačić just needs to go. Now, the next assignment, they're taking on Dinamo Zagreb. Will be taking on the Bulgarian champions Ludogorets, who defeated Ireland's Shamrock Rovers 4-2 in aggregate. So that was a really, really big win. Now, if we stay on European competition before we move to the domestic competition, last week we had the two Croatian teams entering the second qualifying round of the European or the UEFA Conference League. We had NK Osijek taking on Kazakhstan's FC Kizlyar. Now, apparently it was like a 6-hour flight out there. It's more Asia than Europe, but Osijek came back with a 2-1 win over the Kazakhstani sides. Topjagic, I love that name. Topjagic, and listen to this, Klein Heisler. Love that name, Klein Heisler. Now, apparently he's a Magyar, but he's actually got a German-sounding surname. They were the ones that scored the goals for Osijek. Now, the long trip must have taken its toll, because when Osijek returned back to Croatia, and we'll talk about this a bit later on, they didn't do too well in their domestic league game against Lokomotiva. But anyway, they hold a 2-1 lead, and they're going to now play the return leg this Friday morning in Osijek. And, well, fingers crossed Osijek will progress through to the next round.
Yeah, especially over there in Osijek. They've always been strong at home.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the result on the weekend, where they did lose to Lokomotiva in Zagreb, even though it was kind of a second-string side, and like I said, we'll talk about that a bit later on, I think Nenad Bjelica has come out firing and has just basically said there are players that do not deserve to be in the Osijek squad, the first-team squad. So he's really put the firecracker beneath the proverbial. But Rijeka, on the other hand, not too good. Not too good. They suffered a 1-2 loss to JURE Garden's Swedish side. Vučkić was the only goal scorer. But having said that, now that they travel to Sweden, anything can happen, because Rijeka sometimes seem to best play away from home when they don't have that pressure. And that's that sort of team that they just sometimes don't perform well with under pressure. But remembering Rijeka has had a lot of players leave Rijeka, and so it's probably still trying to find their feet. Now, Josip, back in 1992, when Croatia played its first league season and the first cup, the winner of the very, very, very first cup, the HNS Cup, was a club called Inter Zaprešić, who later changed their name to Inter Zaprešić. They were the Canaries, they were the Yellows. The Zaprešić boys made them famous, obviously coming from that neck of the woods, which is about half an hour outside of Zagreb, kind of like a satellite city. Unfortunately, due to bankruptcy, Inter Zaprešić is no longer. Now, it looks like a new club will be reincarnated. They will be called Inter Zaprešić, like the original club.
Well, there was an Inter first, right?
Yeah, that's right. And well, actually, they were first called Jugo Keramika because of the sponsor. Then, obviously, when Croatia became independent, any connection to Jugo or this or Jugo, that was immediately frowned upon. So Inter kind of became that Keramika type of I guess, abbreviation. And then when the sponsor pulled out, it became simply Inter Zaprešić. Now, unfortunately, they no longer are part of, well, they were going to be part of the Prva Liga. Get this? But the Prva Liga is really the Druga Liga. The HNL, Hrvatska Nogometna Liga, is the elite competition. The Prva Liga, the Druga Liga, and the Druga Liga is, in fact, the Treća Liga, whatever you want to call it. That now means that there's a spot in the second-tiered competition, let's call it that, and that's now going to be filled by a club from Imotski, Croatia Zmijavci, one of the few Croatian clubs that actually has got Croatia in its name, strangely enough.
You know how when we spoke with Spider about how he said they were very Croatian at Urania?
Yes.
Take that to another level at Zmijavci. If Domo Todorić from South Australia is watching the show, he
Yeah.
might be able to drop a line on the chat to explain. But yeah, let's just say there's a bit of Branitelja action going on over there.
Yeah, actually, we've got some great comments happening. Tony Chava says, "Let's ring Marmic for the next coach." I assume he's talking about Zdravko Marmic. Yeah. Rob Stoker, the Dandenong City president. Čačić može sa Marmićom u svoju materinu. Okay, we're not going to swear, but I think we get the idea of what is being said there. Anyway, back to the Croatian league now. That means, yes, so Croatia Zmijavci now are a member of the 12-team Druga Liga, or Prva Liga. And now there's another team that needs to be filled in to the Druga Liga, which is the third-tier competition. Confusing or what? Now, that's going to be a playoff between NK Trnje from Zagreb and Hrvatski Vitez Posedarje, which is a small club near the Maslenički Most, I'm told, somewhere around in the Zadar hinterland. So that is going to be coming up early August to fill that 16-team competition. Remember, for the first time this year, the third tier of Croatian football is going to be one league, not 5 zonal leagues like it has been in the past. Now, before we go on to the domestic competition, have a look at that. It's been leaked by www.footyheadlines.com.
Yeah.
That is the Croatian home jersey that is going to be at the World Cup. Folks, what do you think of it? Personally, I like it. It's a little bit slim, maybe a bit too slim for myself and yourself, Josipe, but this is the slim cut. This is this is the fit Hrvat after the.
This is the nightclub edition.
Nightclub edition, yeah. I do like the little blue strips on the rukavice, but I would have loved to have seen like a full red band up near the like the collar. But apart from that, simple, and that's all we need. You know, it's the kockice are quite big, quite large. They really stick out. I think it looks fantastic personally. What are your thoughts, mate?
Look, I like it. On initial look at it, it looks pretty good. It's a little bit evolved from the last one as well. It's quite appealing, and I think it'll sell. It'll definitely sell well, especially with the young crew. But even more so with the Japanese. The Japanese love our tops, and so
don't they ever?
Yeah. So, as long as you keep things looking kind of balanced and even, they love it. So it's striking. It's striking. It's unlike anybody else. You know, you don't get a solid yellow or solid blue like you would with France or other countries with their solid colours. So it definitely makes us a point of difference to the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, round 2 of the Hrvatska Nogometna Liga. Varaždin, yes, they have opened their account, 2-1 win. And I watched this game, and let me tell you, when you get some of these smaller clubs playing the Hajduks and the Dinamos, they shut up shop. They usually play the bunker. Apologies to NK Bunker. But they play that bunker system where it's very closed and it's very dour sometimes. When these clubs play each other, on the other hand, you get a really fast-paced, and this is where you actually see some of the skill of some of the players that don't normally get a showing, if you like. There's a young kid at Varaždin, former Hajduk split player, Tonio Teklic. He's like the playmaker. He was in absolute super fine form in this game against Istra. And there's speaking of Hajduk, ex-Hajduk player Ante Erceg, who had a stint at Osijek, looks like signing for Istra. So that'll be the third club in the HNL that he would have played. Sounds a bit like the A-League, doesn't it? Josip, a little bit of a kind of a roundabout. Not as bad.
Roundabouts going on. Roundabouts.
Not as bad. As we mentioned, Dinamo Zagreb smashed Slaven Belupo 5-1 in Koprivnica. Lokomotiva 2-1 in Zagreb against Osijek. It left Nenad Bjelica, the Osijek coach, absolutely fuming. Gorica and Šibenik, 2 teams that are probably going to, kind of be middle of the table sides this year. They fought out a 0-0 draw in very, very hot conditions in Velika Gorica, just outside of Zagreb. And if you've obviously gone to Croatia and you land at the airport there, at the beautiful new airport there in Zagreb, you usually sort of turn left to go into the city of Zagreb. But if you turn right and sort of turn right again, you'll basically be at the stadium of HNK Gorica. It's that close to the airport. Hajduk Split and Rijeka obviously played out they didn't play. They
Didn't play.
they didn't play at all.
Before
They had their game postponed.
Yeah, I think this was
Yeah.
the Europa games.
Yeah,
Same
correct.
in Boston as well. There's a couple postponed with the Europe games going on.
And you expect that to be the case. And there's talk that round 5 fixture between Dinamo and Hajduk, the highly anticipated Dinamo Hajduk clash, that is also going to be postponed or likely to be postponed, assuming those two clubs start to progress through to the next rounds of European competitions. Yep, Dinamo Zagreb on top, same old story, on 6 points. Rijeka in second with 3. Rijeka in third with 3. Then Lokomotiva, Osijek, Varaždin and Slaven Belupo also on 3 points. Moving along to this weekend's fixtures, Šibenik taking on Lokomotiva. That should be a good game, actually.
Evenly balanced, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we've got also Saturday morning, Dinamo Zagreb taking on Istra. So that's Saturday morning, our time, by the way. This is Australian time or Australian Eastern Standard Time. Varaždin taking on Hajduk. Now, that is set to be a bumper crowd. Sanity has prevailed.
Yeah.
In Varaždin, yeah. Originally, it was going to be played, I think, at 7 o'clock their time or 6 o'clock their time. And that's now been moved to 9 p.m. their time because it's just too hot. Too hot. Absolutely ridiculous. Osijek taking on Slaven Belupo, and then Rijeka taking on Gorica in the early hours of Monday morning, our time. If we jump over to now Bosnia and Herzegovina, they also, as you said, mate, they had a little bit of a kind of a
staggered start.
Start because of obviously European competition. Zrinski, first game of the season, they copped a red card and lost to Željezničar Sarajevo at home 2-1. Not a result we'd like to see, but I'm sure it's just
maybe a little bit of a hangover from maybe just a bit of a hangover from the games that they've already played in the European qualifications. Plus, also look, it's a short break for them. They went deep into May to finish their season, so yeah.
Indeed. Hrvatski Vjesnik, on the other hand, great win for them, 2-0 over Sloboda Tuzla. Yeah, well done, Hrvatski. Borac Banja Luka lost to Sarajevo 1-3 at home, and Sloga Doboj 4 defeated Leotard Trebinje 0. Every time I think of
Posuš's game was deferred, but they had a game against Hajduk Split and beat Hajduk 2-0. I don't know what the lineups were like, but look, anytime you got to go over to Split and play a game, and you take home 2-0, you're going to brag about it for a while. So,
now, there's a funny story about this. Apparently, the agreement was that they weren't going to go out in public and they weren't going to mention any of the scores. That was the agreement, right? Well, of course, Posuš, if they beat Hajduk 2-0. They're going to brag about it. What do you expect, So, of course, on their social media pages, they had this big photo of the scoreboard. Posušec 2, Hajduk Split 0. And, look, I don't think Hajduk Split officials were too, perturbed about that or annoyed or anything like that. I think it's just part and parcel of it as it is. Now, we've got our two guests there in the green room. We've got the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia, JURE DRAGOVIC. He'll be joining us very, very shortly. We're just going to have a look at the BiH ladder very, very quickly. And we've also got the editor of the Croatian Herald, George Zoran Jure SABLJAK. He goes under a lot of different names, but he'll be joining us after Jure. For tax purposes, that's probably it. There we go. Now, I look at that ladder, and it's great to see a Croatian club is on top, Hrvatski Vjesnik. 2 wins from 2 games, a goal difference of 4-0 against, so 2 clean sheets on 6 points. Sloga Doboj second. Are they newly promoted? I think they are.
Yeah, they are. They're from the Pokrajina of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So,
every time I hear that word Doboj, the name Doboj, I always think of the joke Mujo is Doboja. Anyway, further down there we've got Posušje, who've had 1 draw from their 1 game, and then we've got Zrinski a little bit lower down on the table, 1 loss from their game, but I'm sure they're going to improve as the season progresses. So very, very exciting next couple of months. happening over in Croatia and in Hrvatski Vjesnik with all of our Croatian clubs over there. All right, Josip, we might take a very, very quick break. When we do return, we're going to have our very, very first guest, and he is the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia, JURE DRAGOVIC, to talk about the draw that was conducted earlier tonight. Don't go away, folks. Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show. Now, late last year, Josipe, it was in December, mid-December, we actually produced a pilot episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show as we worked on fine-tuning how we were going to run this program. And 25 episodes later, we're still here and hopefully going strong. And it's thanks to all of the Croatian clubs that have supported us, a lot of the businesses as well. And indeed, it's great now. We've almost gone full circle. Our guest on that pilot episode was the man who is now going to come on this show, the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia, JURE DRAGOVIC. George, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, gents. It took me 25 weeks to get back, so I didn't know how to interpret that, but congratulations on reaching your milestone.
Thanks, mate. So it's good to have you on the show. And look, maybe if we can just make a neki ugovor every 25 episodes to get you on board.
Oh, no, well, like I said, I'd love to be there for the half century in Bogdad in 25 weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's been a great year. Things are slowly starting to get back to normal, but it has been hectic. And as we saw in the Oz Cro wrap up with Josip earlier in the show, some clubs are doing really well. Some clubs are still struggling and what not. But as far as the Croatian Soccer Tournament is concerned, as they say, punom parom naprijed. Everything seems to be going really well. Give us a little bit of a rundown of what's happening behind the scenes, and then we'll talk about the draws that were conducted earlier tonight.
No. Well, it's all systems go with respect to King Tom. This tournament represents as you're well aware, the first tournament since Dandy 2019. Unfortunately, we missed out like a lot of other events did over the last 2 years. So it's our first tournament since 2019 and the first tournament in Sydney since 2011. So it's been a long time between drinks. The response from, and I'm speaking on behalf of King Tom here, but they've been overwhelmed by the response of the Sydney and Greater New South Wales Croatian community, which is evident by the number of teams that have registered to attend. Without going into too much detail, they've exceeded their expectations in relation to sponsorship. And again, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. Out of all of our social clubs, Kralj Tomislav, the King Tom's club in Sydney, represents being probably the biggest and the most profitable. So their motivation for doing the tournament is far greater than to try to make some money. So, which we hope that they do. But their intention to hold the tournament was to bring the local community back together in Sydney, and certainly from the feedback that we're getting in terms of, as I said, sponsorship, volunteer base, and certainly the number of clubs that local clubs that are supporting this year's tournament, it's going to be one not to be missed.
Fantastic. George, with the way the community has responded, I think King Tom has also stepped up. I'm sure you'll agree. We had Dinko and Bella on not too long ago talking about the preparations. And one thing that they did, and you tip your lid to anyone who takes feedback on and responds in a positive way, and that's exactly what they did. We know that 2011 that they had a fair few challenges in terms of the way that their liquor control was governing the way they could do services and where they could have events and grounds and things like that. But it seems like everything's in this real 3.5 kilometre radius around King Tom, which bodes really well for a good atmosphere, you know.
No, absolutely. Having visited the what will be the secondary, well, in most cases, it'll almost be a primary tournament venue, but the redeveloped Fairfield Showgrounds, which represents, I think, a $30 million plus renovation of the old showgrounds, and that's where MacArthur, the A-League team, train. King Tom are basically taking over that whole facility for 3 days, essentially, as a clean facility. So all the kitchens, full facilities will basically be under King Tom's control. So there's, 2 FIFA pitches there. There's a very large oval where we'll fit 2 other grounds. So there'll be 4 grounds there. As you said, Josip, it's only 3.5 Ks from King Tom. But magnificent playing surfaces, lots of car parking, and very close to King Tom Centre. So certainly in line with the growth of the tournament to be able to have 2 fantastic venues, the Croatian Sports Centre at King Tom and the Fairfield Showgrounds to use for our tournament is a credit to the organisers and for their thinking. And they applied for the tournament 2 years ago, and that redevelopment was just in the work, so it's basically worked out good for them. So it was officially opened just a few weeks ago. So it's a world-class event, a world-class venue for what we believe is almost a world-class event.
Good stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you're at the gala night as well. Apparently about 80% of tickets are sold for the gala night. Now, that's on the Villa on the Park, and that's, speaking of world-class facilities, that's in Abbotsbury. Storna Sat is the entertainment, a local legendary Croatian band from Sydney. How's that all going? How are the logistics going for that? Because we all know the gala night is such a massive, maybe probably even harder to organise than the tournament itself. How are things going with regards to the gala night? And are we going to see anything special, anything unique this year as part of those gala night festivities?
Well, this year's gala will be a little bit different again, and we'd like to think the anticipation and the excitement of not having a gala for 3 years will result in it being, and without doubt, fully sold. All our clubs support it. It's basically a condition of the tournament that every club needs to take out a table, and I think there is 750, so 70 to 75 tables there. So it's been well supported up until now. I'm not too sure. I know 2 weeks ago they were 80% sold. The program will be heavy on entertainment, as well as from a football perspective. So we're going to have this year's inductees to the Hall of Fame being inducted on the night. I know there's a local Sydney comedian also on the cards.
Or Robbie Shahad.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, but
neither am I. Is he funny?
Yeah.
Well, I hope so.
SBS, they got the what's it called? Fat Pizza.
Oh,
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit different, but at the same time, given the long break we've had between drinks, it's a fantastic opportunity in a little bit of a more casual environment. It's difficult to catch up with everyone in a marquee, or this year will be King Tom and the whole lot. So it promises to be a very good night.
Fantastic.
All right, shall we now look at the draws held earlier tonight? Now we've got the graphics for each of these. Let's start with the men's Division 1 competition. George, take us through the groups, the men's Division 1.
Well, I'm glad you got the graphics because I haven't got anything in front of me. I've just basically got home. But unfortunately, we had a late withdrawal recently, so we were looking at having 2 groups of 5. But the way that it's worked out, which reflects the last 2 tournaments, essentially, we've had a group of 9. So everyone there represents being an MPL team. In their different states and what have you. And, for historical reasons, we've seeded Sydney United and Melbourne Knights, and everything has just fallen accordingly there. But,
Yep.
Both, and when you're talking, even though there may be different standards of NPL between states, when you're talking about a 40-minute game, 2 20-minute halves, it's certainly going to be very competitive in across both groups.
Okay, it's going to be unusual not seeing Canberra, Croatia in that competition there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, even though there's only 8 teams in the NPL in Canberra, they started their season about 4 weeks later than everyone else, and their last home and away fixture is September the 11th. So we hope and we anticipate that both Canberra Croatia men and their very strong women's team will make it to the grand final, which at this point in time is, I think, penciled in for the weekend of the tourney. So that's the unfortunate reason why we haven't got Deakin attending. Yeah. Well, we hope that they make their grand final. They anticipate they will, and that's their teal, obviously. Yeah. So it would be disappointing if all of a sudden they call us 2 weeks before the tourney to play in the tourney, because that means that they wouldn't have progressed to where they hope to be.
Well, in saying that, is that opportunity available there, that if it did turn out that way, to balance the group? Is there accommodation for that?
Oh, no, absolutely. We've kept communications open with Deakin and the committee there, and like I said, it'll just take time. But for any of the groups that are a little bit lopsided, we hope to be able to fill them to make them more even. And Good. Division 1 is no different.
Yeah. All right, let's move along to men's Division 2. 4 groups there. 2 groups have got 4 teams, and 2 groups have got 5 teams. George, take us through them.
Yeah, so we split all the Sydney teams. So there was 10 of them. So we basically minimised how many could be in the one group. And some teams, which is become the norm, which is all good. When a tournament is hosted in a particular city, then quite often clubs from that city will send their reserve teams and the whole lot, and sometimes even more. A big shout out to Hrvatski Zagreb, who have registered 8 teams this year. So you can see So they're obviously their senior team will play in Division 1, but they've put their under 23s, I think, and a group of under 20s to both play in Division 2. So that's why there's 2 Hurstville teams there. But again, it's going to be really sort of competitive because the Melbourne Knights youth team are there. So MPL youth teams will be no pushover. Again, in a 40-minute game, it's going to be very even.
I'm looking forward to Newcastle, Croatia coming back. You were there?
No, absolutely. Geez, they made the headlines the other. I don't think they're going to score 24 goals in a game at the tourney.
But against Bunker when they play Bunker.
Well, listen, the boys from Bunker, they're all good. It's it's a little bit unfortunate that we've got groups of 5 and groups of 4, but we want to, we don't draw a line on how many teams come, and that's just the way that it's fallen. But certainly, like the top 2 from each group will go through to the quarters, as recent years has showed, it's the standard of football in Division 2, which predominantly are state league teams, but more and more these days, some MPL reserve grade teams is very high. And the last final at Dandenong was super competitive between the boys from Auckland and Denzel Park, who for the first time took out the Divi 2 tourney.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, the women's division, we've got 8 teams split into 2 groups of 4.
Well, the women's division this year is going to be a special one in the sense that we're going to have a new champion for the first time in about 10 years. So Canberra, Croatia, obviously women are traditionally very strong, and I think have won 7 of the last 10. And the 3 that I think they didn't win have gone to the girls from Auckland. So with Auckland, Croatia unable to attend this year, and as Canberra, Croatia as well, we're going to crown a new women's champion this year. So again, we split up the 4 teams from Victoria evenly. Look forward to what will be a very exciting competition.
Fantastic. Moving along to the Starci, the old boys. These are the younger version of the old boys, the over 35s, the Masters. 3 groups of 4, 4, and 3. Once again, take us through this, Jure.
Yeah, we're hoping to fill the last group, the last spot in Group C in the next week or 2, but we'll see how we go. Listen, I've played in the over 35s for 10 years now, and it's not for my ilk anymore. It's some really good teams who play in a season. Throughout the soccer seasons. I'm not too sure what to expect from Sydney United's old boys, whether there's some old NSL players that, A-League players. I doubt if they'll be NSL, but there could be some Poznate imena in that team. I'm not too sure, but again, it promises to be a very competitive tourney, and I think probably one of the favourites you would think would need to be St Albans Vukovar. So that generation that's played as Vukovar have now turned into an over 35s team at our tourney.
And speaking of St Albans, I'm sure that that comment won't be taken too well by one Mark Vidakovic, who coaches the Gold Coast Knights over 35. So he'll be ready for that challenge.
Former Dinamo boy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yes, Sharky. Listen, you never know. I mean, and Gold Coast, I'm pretty sure. No, Dandy 35s won the last tourney in the 3 years ago.
Dandy's been champion for 3 years now, mate.
Yeah, well, I hope they remember to return the trophy to us.
I heard they've been putting it as a tip jar these days. No, I'm joking.
All good.
And for last but certainly not least, this is our kind of generation, the veterans, the over 45s, and Josip in particular, you've got
the Wednesday boys.
Oh yes, the Wednesday nights, the good old Wednesday nights. Part of the Dinamo football group, they are known these days, down at St Albans Dinamo. Good bunch of blokes, and one of the clubs that has supported this program this year. Jure, tell us about the veterans, the sentimental favourites of the tournament, are they not?
Well, I mean, this is the second time we've had an over 45. So the inaugural champions were the Gold Coast Knights back in Dandenong, and it's certainly a bit close to my heart because I'm part of the Wednesday crew. So this represents our first foray into the over 45s. And I think, Josip, I think it's the 20th anniversary this year since the Wednesday boys started.
Yeah, it's
so,
the 20th time. So the first time we played was 2003. So this is the 20th tournament we've attended.
Yep, and always strong numbers and strong voice, and listen, it's as competitive as any of the other groups. Wednesday, the Melbourne teams obviously know each other quite well. Bruno Zofko's got the Melbourne Knights over 45s up and going the last couple of years. Gold Coast Knights are reigning champions, but King Tomislav with the Gospodin Judica over there is tournament frequent. And again, with Adelaide Old Boys coming as well, with Shuey and the crew, it's all laughs and giggles afterwards, but certainly for the 40 minutes of the game, it's quite competitive.
Excellent.
Now, Jure, let's delve into your family a little bit. Now, your younger brother, Ante Dragovic of Strathmore Split fame, he's renowned... Sexy football, let's call it that. Yeah, so he's veterans team or metro team or masters team, whatever you want to call it. They're the self-proclaimed sexy football exponents of the Australian Croatian scene. The Wednesday nights, what are they renowned for? Footballing style, that is.
Footballing style.
Always the best kit, the best dressed.
Well, I can tell you, not because I'm a part of them, but Wednesday nights are always the first team that registers, the first team that books their hotels, the first team that books flights. So Nick Delio looks after all that. So we're as professional as we come.
Absolutely.
But the rules is the hotel needs to be within walking distance of a casino. And so the Loverick boys and Rago and everything, I mean, they're a good bunch of boys. Listen, we know Strathmore very well, and so it could be brother on brother when we play each other in the veterans.
He's too young to be in the veterans, isn't he, Auntie?
No, he's well over 45.
God didn't call us as they say.
Hey, just a couple of things from our audience, Tonchi, before we let you go.
Yes.
Maria Mlinac has made a special request out to our brothers and sisters in the Croatian football community, just getting the teams to bring all their shirts, scarves, merchandise, things that they'd like to sell, swap, so that people can get their collection growing. People like those sorts of memorabilia things.
Good point.
And there's a question there about why no WA team. So I could answer the question for Jure, but I'll let you go for it, mate.
I listened. It's a challenge for our WA teams and a bigger one this year. So we were very close to securing a WA team. The current airfares from Perth to Victoria, from Perth to Sydney, are about $1,000 return. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of the senior players at our two Perth teams, Guelph and Western Knights, aren't of a Croatian origin. And so, to get those people to take a couple of days off work, travel around the other side of Australia, it always proves to be a challenge in terms of being able to put together a squad of 14 or 15. So as much as, and listen, those clubs are members, they continue to pay their membership that Chlanstvo, and I'm sure that the committees from those clubs, especially the Western Knights, they travel to every tournament, whether their teams are participating or not.
Yeah, absolutely. We did have Dean Zlendic on from Western Knights early this year, and he was hopeful, I think, very hopeful that they could get a team together at the time, but distance, cost, and the circumstances we find ourselves in these days. Inflation today, what is it? 30-year high, 6.2% here in Australia. Anyway,
we don't discuss those topics here.
No, we don't, of course, but it does have an effect on things. Jure, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a long, long night for you, but we do appreciate you taking some time out, and we'll see you back on episode 50. Maybe later this year or early next year.
No, thanks again for the opportunity, guys. All the very best for future programs, and thanks for your continued support of all our clubs.
Good on you, Jure. Jure Dragovich, the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia. Thank you very much to Jure. All right, we're going to have our next guest joining us very shortly. But in the meantime, become a sponsor. We are seeking sponsors for the Oz Cro Soccer Show podcast. So if your club would like to sponsor an episode and be featured in our Club in Focus segment, we'd love to know a little bit more about your clubs. We've had some great clubs this year. Josip, what are some of the names that you can just off the top of your head
Newcastle,
remember?
Croatia, Western Knights, St Albans Dynamo twice. We've had Adelaide. We spoke with Ian Krivicic in Adelaide, Gold Coast Knights with Adrian Pujic. So, just top of my head without diving into anything. There you go. Hurstville Zagreb.
Sure, we've missed it. Yep. Sure, we've missed out on a few. If your business would like to jump on board and advertise on our weekly show, or if you'd just like to become a member of the show and help us achieve what we are trying to do, or if you just want to send a kind-hearted donation our way just to keep us going, look, email us. There's the email address, ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com. That's ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com. Well, we're going to bring our next guest onto the show. He's been itching to get on the show tonight, and it's an absolute pleasure to introduce the editor of the Hrvatski Vjesnik. Now, is it George? Is it Jure? Is it Zoran? We just know you're SABLJAK. How are you, George?
Good boys. Thank you for having me on. Just to clear things up, Zoran SABLJAK was my birth name. Yeah, it's SABLJAK family name.
Was that about 100 years ago, was it?
I was christened on Sveti Jure,
Yeah.
so Jure became part of that whole makeup. But because when we got to this wonderful country, people couldn't they couldn't say Jure, they were Juraj. And then somebody figured out, hey, Jure is like the same as George, so let's call you George. And then
all right, George.
I must admit, fellas, I'm a bit disappointed. It's taken you 25 episodes to have me on.
We waited for a special occasion, mate, and special occasion calls for special guests.
In the event that you needed to lift the profile, it's like a trust.
Old mate, here we go. Yeah, 3 minutes. Cut his service off.
Oh, mate, fair. Now, look, let's talk about something very dear to your heart, George, Jure, Zoran. The Croatian community and obviously Dandenong City Hajduk, down your neck of the woods. That, as you let us know in the chat section, the Dandenong City has been the reigning champion now for the last 3 years. Mate, tell us about, after last tournament down in Melbourne, it was a huge tournament. It was a massive tournament, and the last one we've had. Just how important are these events for the Australian Croatian community as a whole?
Before going on, I don't know if JURE DRAGOVIC is still listening, but we're reigning champions now for 3 years in a row. Just you forgot, you overlooked that part. Just
it's all right. We reminded him. It's all right, mate.
Look, it's extremely important. I mean, you can name probably on one hand the events of this sort of caliber, with the tourney obviously being the premier event. You know, you've got the tourney, you've got Proktoberfest, you've got the cultural festival at the Dome. You've got even North Geelong now are trying to build something there with their Labor Day Festival.
Labor Day Festival, yeah.
We've also got, obviously, in Sydney, they do a lot of really good folkloric festivals, which could possibly take the sort of tone and the look of a tourney where you have all these kids come up for a week, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
but
Adelaide Festa is another one that comes to mind.
Sorry, yeah, that was the other one, Adelaide Festa, that's now, I think, they're celebrating, they had their 10th anniversary a couple of years ago, and it's just going from strength to strength. And I can see Adelaide Festa is now just one day, but there's even talk now that it might actually go over 2 days, which I think would probably be a deserve, because a lot of people actually come from interstate to actually attend the event, so which is great. I've been a few times myself, and it's just a wonderful way to catch up with the community. And events like that, and what you were saying before, how important is this? Well, you see yourself how important it is. You catch up with old friends. You put on display your culture, your heritage. Not only do you put it on display, but you actually protect it, safeguard it for generations to come. So yeah, it's vital. I mean, yeah, we all go to the odd Zabava here and there, and a lot of us are probably over that sort of thing. But a festival type of event, it's extremely important. And look, it adds to the bottom line as well. I mean, every club looks to do as much as they can. But you know yourself, most of that money is reinvested into nošnje, improvements at the facilities, and to do the event again. That's how it is.
Hey, George, I remember that after the 2019 wrap-up, I think Damir Ljubicic might have helped you with the video on that occasion, and there was a 15-minute clip, or was it young Josip Herzog maybe? Someone did it. I can't remember whether it was Damir or Josip. I can't remember now. But I remember you being in. It is on YouTube, right? And I remember you being interviewed throughout that interview, and there was a real. No, you were still coherent, and it must have been around 6 o'clock, so you still had long innings to go. But anyway, one of the key things you mentioned in this 1.5 minute spiel was the amount of people you knew that had hookups at the tourney. They've become husbands, wives, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and it sort of you think back and you go, you know what? It's probably like a perfect match on steroids, because it's
Yeah.
just you got what the biggest thing would be interesting to find out. And this is you're a journo, we've got the paper. Try and do some investigation to see how many interstate marriages have occurred as a result of the tournament.
We've tried, actually, I think we tried to go down that path, but it was just difficult to get in touch with people. We probably need to put it out again there and just do like a double page feature leading up to a tourney, which I think would be fantastic, because there'd be some pretty funny stories there too.
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be a lot that don't want to admit either. Yeah, Josip, I reckon that was that Optus Sports special. Was it David Davutovic was involved in that?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Football Belongs or something like that. A brilliant little excerpt. Yeah. Now this year's tournament, mate. Obviously the first tournament in 3 years' time. First time it's been in the harbour city for a decade or so. We spoke to you just before. We've had Dinko Lerotic earlier in the piece, and Bella as well. Look, all systems go. It looks like it's going to be an absolute awesome event. What have you heard? What are you expecting from this year's tournament?
Well, likewise, I've heard the gala night's actually close to sold out, and I believe perhaps one of the reasons for that is because I think from memory, when I looked at the map of the venue, it's not too far away from the facility itself at King Tom there. Look, we ran a couple of features a couple of weeks ago, just giving people updates and all that. It looks like to me that it's going to be a total turnaround event of what it was last time, and we all know last tourney wasn't probably the highlight of tourneys that we've been to over the years, and it's not through the fault of the committee. It was just the ridiculous security and different pressure that was put on different people. I mean, there were, from memory, there were like 3 checks to get into the nightclub. The club down the bottom. You had to sign in, present your ID after that, and then once before you had to go into the club, and people were just like, hopefully that's all resolved and they can move things a lot quicker. And then maybe this time kids will listen and sign up during the day so they don't have to wait outside.
Very good.
Weather-wise, but you know what? Weather-wise, Sydney's capable of anything. So
yeah. Look, and I know, like, we did draw upon that with conversation with JURE DRAGOVIC before, and 2011 did have its challenges. But look, what I will stress once again, as I stressed it a little bit earlier, was that one thing that they've done well is taken upon all that feedback, and you covering off all those points about how everything's within close vicinity of the major hub, right? And they've been working well with the authorities to make sure that the services can be what we'd expect to hear and see.
Yeah.
Now, George, moving to, sorry,
go on.
I was just going to say, moving along now to just conscious of the time, moving along to your neck of the woods, let's call it that, Dandenong City. Now, remember, the Dandenong City president Rob Stalker is watching, so watch what he's going to say. I was going to say, can they survive in the NPL, in NPL Victoria? This is the big one. Oh, look, he's changed his background too.
All sorted.
So I'm speaking with some sort of authority. Look, guys, it's pretty black and white for us at the moment. We've got a tough run home, and that run includes South Melbourne, Avondale, and Bentley, so it can't get worse. We're 2 points behind Hume. We would need to at least win one of those games and hope that Hume loses all of theirs. But they play Eastern Lions, I think, as well in one of those from memory. So Eastern Lions already, their fate has been sealed a few weeks ago. So, it's not looking good for us at the moment. But lopte el krugla, as they say.
Yeah, that's right, and anything can happen now in these last few rounds. As we can see, sitting at second last there, the goal difference doesn't do you any favours either in case of equal points coming about. But it definitely needs to be a win and a Hume City to continue losing for you guys to jump out of that spot there, mate.
Well, we're hoping, some of our sister clubs could help us out there. Ali near that could be.
Oh well, just look, it doesn't work out. Actually, somebody mentioned that to me recently. They said every time we look like we're in a position to jump, you're looking at St Albans or Melbourne Knights, and their result didn't work out. So then you kind of look back to the drawing board, Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, let's turn to the Croatian Herald, the Hrvatski Vjesnik. Something very close and dear to many years myself, and being involved in the Vjesnik. Mate, in 2022, what are the issues facing a community and ethnic newspaper here in Australia? There may be a lot, but what are some of the trials and tribulations, I suppose, that the Vjesnik is kind of going through at the moment?
Everything you can think that could go bad for a paper in terms of did go bad, not just for us, but for every paper during the last 2 years. You had reduced sales, businesses closed down, no advertising, circulation drops. We did have a surge in home deliveries because people still wanted to have that contact. But look, it's been an extremely tough couple of years for us, and we were lucky to be able to survive that through the assistance. And I'll put it. Most people already know Mr. Philippe, which was very, very, and Arthur. They said that the paper needs to survive because the community relied. There's so many people still that rely on the Vjesnik. It's just not even, people have actually called with tears in their eyes when they don't get a delivery. Because,
it's their way to remain connected.
Yeah. So as long as we feel that there's that need to have that medium for the people who missed the, internet file. They missed all of the Facebook. They don't know how to, all they do is they go to their mailbox on a Thursday or go to the news agency and hope that there's a, copy for them left over, which to this day still is beyond me. I mean, yourself, Taunch, when the news agencies run out, yet they don't top up.
Yeah.
No, always
funny you say that. JURE Dragovik from the Hrvatski Ponos radio just popped a note to say his local Vietnamese deli doesn't stock the Vjesnik anymore.
Yeah, there's been a massive change in the distribution over the last last 6 months. When Nine News bought out, and I don't want to bore people with the details, but basically Nine News bought things out and stuffed everything up, basically.
Yeah, okay.
They cut distribution.
No surprise.
They handed over. Now there's literally one distributor in Victoria.
Oh,
it's just it's not just the Croatian Herald or the Vjesnik that's suffering. There's a lot of papers that are feeling the exact same issues.
Now, on a positive note, I guess we are now in the technological age, the digital age, and I know going back in the late 2000s, I think one of the things that I was kind of really at the time troubling me was how can the Vjesnik secure its future and how can it capitalize on the internet? Because obviously these days you can watch internet TV, you can watch Croatian television live and what you're not. Watching Dinamo Zagreb's game live this morning, and sometimes the news gets old and what you're not, but by the time you get the paper, but you're now entering the digital age with an experiment where you're actually where you're producing or you're offering the Croatian Herald a digital edition of it, and this may be the lifeline for the Vjesnik. Tell us a little bit more about this, because this is very, very exciting.
It's something we first toured with a few years ago through an app with Apple and Android. And look, their terms and conditions are just ridiculous. They're very hard to work with. Through a friend of mine that came up to me recently and says, "Why don't you try Issue, which is an online platform?" Yeah, and when he told me that Croatia Airlines actually prints their or releases their magazine monthly through this same platform, I said, look, it literally took me half an hour to figure out, upload, combine all of the PDFs into one document and upload it and create a link, and it's a link that can be shared. Simple as that.
Brilliant.
There's nothing to it. People can just flick through it like you on your desktop, just flicking through the paper. And what we are struggling though with, Taunchi, and you'd know yourself, to monetize it is another thing though. We need to be able to monetize it, because otherwise, if we don't make money to pay for the journos, the people who do the graphical layout, there won't be a,
Absolutely, yeah.
And
is there a way of creating paywalls or what you're not, like, say, I don't know, a lot of the newspapers do these days?
Well, there is. I mean, you can actually click on the link, and then a paywall will pop up to ask you, do you want to read it for $1 or do you want to download it for $1.50? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Something like that. You know yourself. Now you go to Geelong Advertiser, it gives you the first 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And then you got to pay for the rest. And even they've realised the value of the content. Vjesnik covers content that's local here, so you won't find that on Hrvatski or one of these, which is very important for us to be able
That platform, George, that Taunchi, the Geelong Independent, who you and I have written articles for before, they use that same platform. Yeah, they use that. Issue.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Is it? Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It's spelled really weird, like ISSUW, ISSUU.
ISSUU. Okay. Interesting stuff. Well, that's something to look forward to, and we look forward to the possibility that the Vjesnik will be digitalised and will be available, and particularly that will appeal to, no doubt, a lot of the younger readers, but also a lot of people maybe overseas, and I'm sure in Canada, in America, even in Croatia proper. They might start to
downloads. It shows you how many times the link has been read, and then it gives you the geographical layout of where they're reading it from. Obviously, most of them are here, but there's quite a few from the European, Croatia, and the Eastern European areas, and other France and other places. So it does get out there. It's just a matter of getting the traffic out there, I guess.
And the best way to access that is the link on Facebook, on the Hrvatski Vjesnik Croatian Herald Facebook page.
Yeah, for the moment, we're putting in the previous week's link. So people, obviously, we need to be able to drive sales with the paper edition. So we can't just simply put it up there for, hey, here you go. We need people to buy the printed edition. So buy it.
Yeah, get out absolutely. There. At all good stores, at all good delis. Before we let George go, Tonch, I think it's important that us as broadcasters for this show, and our viewers who are tuning in, and people who watch it later on in YouTube and the like, to recognise the efforts that our editor-in-chief of the Hrvatski Vjesnik has done. He has clocked up 10 years plus now in the role. Čestitam ti na tvoj trud I ljubav da možeš još 10 godina.
Remember the initial conversation, Taunch? I'll give it a go for a couple of years.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes. 2010, 2011, when I sort of sprung it on George and the executive director, Zdenko Marincic, way back at, like, guys, I can't handle it. I just become a dad. I'd started a business. Commuting from Geelong was just awful and impossible. And then George, he was the saviour of the Vjesnik. If it wasn't for you, mate, it would have died a long time ago. And now that we have got the third generation of Australian Croatians that do, get the paper and see themselves in a photo and those, like, I'm just looking at this week's edition coming up. We've got it there. Things like the Crow Care Slavi Prvi Rođendan, so the Crow Care. There's been Zaba that have been happening, as you said, in Sydney, in Melbourne, and
Pelješki most.
Pelješki most as well, down our neck of the woods. That's a big thing. Well, it's a wonderful service that you're doing along with all the other Croatian media. There's newspapers, Domovina, there's the radios, Hrvatski Porno. You would have watching the show. That's not JURE Dragovic's the one we have show, but down Melbourne way.
The better one.
The better looking one, is it? Mate, I think on behalf of the entire Croatian community, and particularly the Croatian football community, George, congratulations on a job well done, and thank you for everything that you do for the community.
Thanks, guys, for the sentiment. Appreciate it. Yeah, and hopefully we can keep delivering for many more years to come. Whether it's me at the helm or not, it doesn't really matter, as long as the community has that connection through storytelling that we do every week. And that's all we do, is we tell stories every week.
Good stuff, mate.
Absolutely. Good on you. On that note, thank you very much, George. Zoran SABLJAK, with a man of many
You got the
names.
thumbs up from Stalker, mate. You're in.
Oh,
That's good news. All right, mate. Good night, and thank you once again for joining us.
Ajde Bog, dečki, Bog.
Ajde Bog.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's show. It's been a wonderful, wonderful show. Remembering next week we are coming to you on a Tuesday night, folks, because next Wednesday night, there it is, all the details. Sydney United taking on the Monaro Panthers. Once upon a time, they were called the Inter Monaro NSL days.
Yeah, back in
That's
NSL
next
days.
Wednesday, 3rd of August at Sydney United Sports Centre, or the Hrvatski Sportski Centar Kralj Tomislav. Ticket prices there are very reasonable, $15 for adults, concession for 10, and children under the age of 12 for free. And if you're not from the Sydney area, you can stream it on 10 Play. But if you are from the Sydney area, do come in there. Let's get as many people there as possible, cheering on the red, white and blue. And hopefully we'll get someone from Sydney United on next Tuesday night's show. It would be absolutely fantastic. Josip, Joe Chalata, you reckon maybe? Well, that'd be good.
Yeah,
that'd be very interesting.
I'm just getting myself a reminder on my phone as we speak, so I don't forget in the morning.
And
But,
speaking
I'm sure if Zivka's still on the line, he's probably already giving him a heads up.
Yeah, I wonder if we can also get go all the way to Baška Voda and get the svi znaju, a nemaju pojma, man. Željko Kalac, that was a wonderful.
He'll watch it live on 10 Play. He might go see Teze in hard.
Absolutely. Josip, have a lovely week. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us. It has been a big, long show. We've gone almost an hour and a half, almost the full 90 minutes, but it was full of lots of interesting things tonight, and hopefully you enjoyed being a part of episode 25 of the Oz Cro Soccer Show. Once again, before we leave, become a member. We are seeking sponsors. We do need sponsors. And if your club would like to be on the Club in Focus segment of an upcoming episode, drop us a line there on ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com. On that note, good night, laku noć, and thank you for being a part of our show.
Laku noć.
Good night.
Thank you.